You are listening to episode 25 of the EU Startups podcast. Today with Sacha Michaud, the co-founder of on-demand delivery unicorn Glovo, which is one of Spain's biggest startup success stories.
So today we are very excited to welcome Glovo Co-founder Sacha to the EU Startups podcast. Glovo was founded back in 2015 and it's swiftly become one of Europe's most popular names in the delivery market. It also definitely was one of the heroes of the pandemic, and it kept us all stocked up on food from our favorite restaurants, as well as essential items that we needed from supermarkets and pharmacies. And it also allows us to send gifts, care packages to our friends and family. Glovo really is a household name across Europe and across the world. So welcome, Sacha, to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, Patricia.
Thank you. So you are a co-founder of Glovo, one of Spain's most emblematic startups, but you yourself have had a pretty interesting career. Could you just give us a little background on your own personal story? How did you become the founder of one of Europe's most successful startups?
Yeah, probably got a typical story, at least until I was 16. I actually started off as a racehorse jockey. When I was 16, I left home and was racing in the UK. I'm actually English Canadian. I was born in the UK and have a Canadian father, and I spent some childhood in Canada as well. But I was a racehorse jockey, maybe 16 to 21. I spent the last year in the US racing, and then I came to Spain and loved Spain, and I decided, what am I going to do? Because there's not very much racing here. So I actually learned to computer program. And fairly quickly, this phenomenon, which is quite mainstream today, came along in the mid-90s called internet. And I was lucky to decide to set up a little company, and it went quite well. And since then, I've been in different activities, but mainly around technology. And I spent 9 years in the gaming industry with a company that was then quite small, but grew up to be the largest online gaming company, at least on the stock market, which is Betfair, which is now called Flutter. And then in late 2014, I ran into Oscar. I had a similar idea in my head, and he was already pushing ahead with his idea of Glovo. I think the best way to describe it that back then was an Uber of things. So Uber were moving people around the cities, and we thought we could be great with an app to move things around the cities. And so I joined him, and when we launched Glovo at the beginning of 2015, initially Southern Europe, above all Barcelona, then Madrid. We quickly went to Italy, Latin America, then more Middle Europe, as in Eastern Europe. And most recently Africa. Wow. And today we're in 25 countries, around 1,300 cities worldwide, and we have about 3,500 employees, around 75,000 active Glovers. There are couriers who are active on the platform last month, and close to 150,000 partners. These are restaurants and stores, local stores within our cities that are on the platform and are selling their goods through our app.
Wow, it's quite the story. I feel like that's a little fun fact that you were a jockey.
Yeah, people. I didn't talk about it so much, but actually, when people actually meet me, the most interesting thing we end up talking about, and what was that like? But we'll leave that for another day. I think the audience doesn't want to hear about that.
So yeah, Glovo has had quite a fascinating story, really. And in 2019, it joined the European Unicorn Club. So what was the original aim and ambition of starting Glovo? And have you faced any big challenges along the way?
Well, I think one of the key elements, and we've stayed very firm on that, was to be multi-category. So when we first thought of it, and the fact the first version of the app didn't have restaurants or food in the app, it was just something you could order anything in your city. And our vision was to give everyone easy access to anything in their city, and the key there's anything. So it wasn't primarily focused on food. So we worked with different partners of all types in the city. But obviously what happened very quickly is our customers ordered more and more food, than other things. So it became our primary category for the obvious reasons. First of all, the market's already educated. We've been used to ordering food at home or in the office for decades, often even before the internet, people were used to phone. So I think from that perspective, it grew very quickly, the food categories. We realized this is a great opportunity to jump on that and use that as our growth mechanism. But we still believe in this anything concept of actually you can order from any store or actually, pick up anything. And you see, so I think that was key, that we were multi-category from day one.
Sure.
And now that's served us in good sense, because now everybody's sort of moving into multi-category, like now groceries, but there's more and more. And we've been doing that from day one. So we're in a great position with all the learnings we've had and the know-how, I think, to lead that segment, at least in the markets where we operate.
Cool. And have you had any big challenges along the way, do you think?
Hundreds. I think the biggest challenge we've had, I think that, we've had obviously a lot of challenges. First of all, being fair to multi-category. I mean, when 90% of your users are really focused on food, it's very easy for us to have said, well, let's just be really good at restaurant food, and let's not dedicate focus and resources to something which is much smaller. That was a challenge, and we had internal challenges. The key management team would question that, and quite rightly so, or some of our investors. So for us to have maintained that wasn't clear. But I think our biggest challenge, being born in Barcelona and Spain, is there hadn't been any major, massive success stories come out of Spain. So access to funds. Mm-hmm. People would confide that a small Spanish startup could compete on the world scene against giants like Uber,
Sure.
who are massive, obviously. Just Eat Takeaway, which they've been on the stock market for I don't know how many years, and Delivery Hero now, which became an investor and now is our major investor.
Yeah.
These companies, we're competing with them in pretty much all our markets, and how could we win that was a serious doubt. So we've had real difficult access to funding. I remember one of our rounds, we got 99 no's before we got a yes from VCs.
That's like an inspiring story, though.
So I think belief that we could compete on the world stage, and so therefore, funds were a bit reluctant to invest in us.
Yeah. So based on that experience with funding, that's been quite a challenge, what would you say are your main tips to any startup founders out there who want funding and are struggling like this as well?
I mean, keep true to your vision. Don't get swayed around. I mean, if you've got something that's going well, then stay true to your vision. If you're doing things right, and the management team is the right one, then you're going to find somebody who's going to help you on the way. I also think speed over excellence. Time to market is very important. Gain traction very quickly. If you can show that your base product or your base idea is got market acceptance and you can see the growth, then you can fix the other things around it to make it perfect. But don't try and get everything right from day one, because if you try and do too many things, you end up not probably doing anything very good or very well. So my advice would be less is more. Focus on the key elements of your business, get some early traction, stay with your vision, and obviously surround yourself with very talented people. The team's everything. Ideas, there's 1,000 people right now with the same idea on the planet. Who's going to execute it is the key thing.
Sure. So stay true to those foundations and the vision. Perfect. So Glovo is, of course, now an international company, and it's really recognized around the whole world. Your markets in Latin America, Europe, and also making steps into Africa. So how can startups successfully scale internationally, and what would you say is the reason behind Glovo's ability to go international?
I don't think there's necessarily correct. There's different management ways or ways you build your company, and they're all correct or incorrect. But we decided very, very quickly that we wanted to be non-headquarter centric. And what do I mean by that? Initially, you could pretend putting in processes and execute based on a headquarter playbook. So therefore, it's much more scalable, because if you just repeat what headquarters is deciding in every single region, in theory, that should be much more scalable. You need less human resources, you need less modifications of the plan, and you just, execute. But we chose a different way, which I firmly believe in, which is, hiring really top talent locally and giving them flexibility and decision making at the local level. Because at the end of the day, Glovo is in 25 countries, I said, or over 1,300 cities. But every city is different, and certainly every country is different, and every culture is different, in different parts of the world as well. So what is right for Barcelona is definitely not necessarily right for Kiev, or Accra in Ghana, or or Casablanca in Morocco. So I think we definitely chose that. I think that was wise. I think it allows you to execute much quicker because you give autonomy to the countries. Sometimes they're less scalable, and you have a lot of pain points. They want to, some countries want to do things very different, and maybe we don't have the technology to do that. So it does cause frictions, but it allowed us to execute very quick, and then allowed us to be much more local than our competitors. So going back to what I said earlier about, David and Goliath, which has been the story of Glovo, against these giant, not even unicorns, 60, 70, $80 billion companies, and how we can compete with them, is by executing much quicker and much more local with a local vision. Whereas I think many of them would go in with a global plan and think, we can just replicate what we've done in Los Angeles in Europe, and actually it's a totally different culture. I think that's helped us a lot.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd say so. So taking just the time to kind of, as you say, localize where you are and make sure everything's completely relevant and built, tailored for that location is key. It's very interesting. And then based on that, so Glovo's not entered into like the UK or the US. Is there any particular reason for that? Or is it just in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of reasons. One of our big theories and one of our big focuses in how we've executed is that, we believe there's a lot of positive things about being market leader or very close to market leader. I'm not saying it's a winner take all market, our industry, but there's certainly a lot of advantages of having a large market share. So we've really focused on areas geographically and countries where we think we can lead the market. And that, I think, is a strong belief. And there's markets which, if we decided to go into them, like the UK, US, I mean, I'd almost say the whole of Asia, they're very mature, competitive markets, where for us to aspire to be leader or to get there would take us a long time and a lot of money. And going back to David and Goliath, money is not something we've had abundance of compared to our competitors. So in essence, we decided to choose our battles where we thought we could lead the market and focus on those. Why do I think it's very important to lead a market? Because not all companies in our space believe that. Some are having really successful businesses, not leading any markets and being number 2 or sometimes number 3. So I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong, their strategy, but we have ours. It's because at the end, the more orders or the more customers I can bring to my partners, my restaurants and local stores in the cities, the happier they are with us, because they're with Glovo to get incremental revenue. They're going with Glovo to digitalize their business. And the happier, the more they're happy, the more partners in local stores and restaurants I'll have. So the more I'll have in the city, and that will obviously reduce distances, delivery distances, which achieves another 2 things. It gives couriers more orders per hour. So a lot more orders. So they have more orders, more hours of orders, and above all, more orders per hour. So more income per hour. So they're happier. They're making more income, and have more opportunities during the whole day to make orders. And then obviously it gives a great UX to the customer, because you've got not only all the best partners, their favorite restaurant and stores in the city, which is fantastic, but we'll deliver it much quicker. So it's a 360. So that's why it's very important to have large volumes in the cities and large market share, in my opinion.
Interesting. Absolutely. So going back as well to that idea of sticking to the original vision of the company and business approaches. So just last week, Glovo announced that it had reached carbon neutrality across the entire value chain. And this is about 2 years after you set the original goal. And sustainability is a real hot topic at the moment. It's at the forefront of most business trends that we're seeing throughout 2022. So how has Glovo been so successful in achieving this target?
So this is, we have a big big social impact team. It's been important for Glovo from day one. A lot of things we can do more of today, and a lot of things we'll be doing later on, but it has been fundamental. And for me, there's a couple of things which are must-dos for all companies, in my opinion. And global warming is one of those. Companies must start adjusting their businesses to have, first of all, stop having a negative impact in that, and hopefully moving to a positive impact. And then there's other things that are intrinsic to Glovo, that are initiatives that we want to do because we believe it's the right thing. But there's a few must, and carbon neutrality is a must. So we committed 2 years ago to become carbon neutral by the end of last year, which today we are. Primarily, looking at our business, all the elements of our business where we have an impact. And this is, by the way, direct and indirect. So I'll give you a good example of what's indirect and what's direct. Looking at all the aspects of our business, how our offices run, how delivery is, how our partners work with us. And first, we're trying to reduce that to the maximum possible without destroying the business. And then compensate anything we can't reduce. And we work with, offsetting partnerships with offset marketplace Bachama. We recently signed a new agreement with South Pole. What they do is they help us reduce emissions by compensation in different methods. So I think it's important from that perspective. When I say indirect, and why this is important is, one of the biggest, parts that we can reduce and improve is single-use packaging, which is what our partners have. All our restaurants and stores. What they do is, they'll package the goods in either a bag or in packaging, and then the customer will receive that, and they'll often end up throwing it out the same day. So try and incentivize these stores to start using sustainable packaging, both recycled and easy to recycle. And in fact, we launched an e-commerce store to facilitate that, to give them recycled packaging and easy to recycle packaging, hence reducing the carbon footprint. So these are the type of things we're working on. Like everyone else, we all have a long way to go.
With the packaging incentive, how many, on the top of your head, like how many of your clients would be participating in that program?
Well, I don't have any clients, but we sold more than 2 million units in 2021. Today, we only have it in Spain, Italy, Portugal, Morocco, and Croatia. So a small footprint of our from our total of 25 countries. But I think the idea here is to expand this, and we want before the end of 2030, we're aiming to have more than 90% of all our orders, ordered through sustainable packaging. So that's working with our partners, giving them the tools, educating them as well. Many are not aware of the importance of this, and pushing them to use and buy sustainable packaging either through ourselves or through other viable vendors.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. So what would be the other key commitments that you have with regards to sustainability in the run up to 2030?
Yeah, so we've got some ambitious targets. We've set these emission reduction targets, and we're using science-based target initiatives, SBTI, is well known across and covering greenhouse gas emissions from global operations. So we want to get in line with all these reductions that are required to keep global warming up to 1.5 centigrade. And it's a lot of initiatives. It's around using sustainable vehicles, non-combustion vehicles. We expect to have 67% of those vehicles not producing emissions. Already today we have 5 countries with more than 40% of our careers using sustainable vehicles. Wow. So we're pushing that in the right way. Obviously, I've mentioned it before, pushing over 90% of our orders to use sustainable packaging. And I think, just focusing on the key elements. For the key elements, the 3 main elements which have the most impact in our industry are obviously, how we deliver our goods and what vehicles and how we can optimize that. I've mentioned it, 3 times now, sustainable packaging, and then food waste, of course. And we have a program called Global Access, which we actually launched in COVID because obviously we became an essential resource, especially at the beginning of this crisis, where people couldn't leave their homes or couldn't access goods. Many stores, so actually we became an essential service for many city councils and NGOs to use us to get goods. But what came of that is actually that there's a lot of food waste being thrown out, and so we're working with NGOs, organizations, to deliver that food waste, either through our partners, helping them reuse that food waste before it's thrown out, as well as through third parties who just want to get goods to people. So I think those are the three elements we're primarily focused on, and where our ecosystem has the largest impact.
Interesting. It's really impressive stuff, and I think it's definitely an inspiration to every company out there, whether they're in the delivery e-commerce space or not, to put sustainability at the forefront of business operations. It's really nice to see a company that's doing that and is being successful in it. And I guess another, alongside sustainability towards tackling climate change, which is obviously at the forefront of all of our minds, another aspect of sustainability can be towards the workers and the staff. So one key area in the delivery space that's received maybe a little bit of controversy, I guess, is impact of rider laws and laws surrounding the people actually delivering the food. So what's Glovo's approach to this?
Yeah, no, I think, the future of work and how we all work is changing very quickly. I think mainly down to technology. The example all of us are living today with our jobs, of how all of a sudden, part of us begin to work from home, either partially. Many companies are doing it full time, and this is generally thanks to technologies that allows that. And I think this dynamics of flexible work, whether it be where you work or how you work or what times you do, is definitely a trend that's not going to go back. So we need to embrace that, and it has a lot of positive things. I think many years ago it seems perfectly normal, but on a Friday afternoon you can probably head to the airport with your laptop, get work done, and make your weekend longer thanks to technology. Maybe you have to connect at 11 o'clock at night. Thanks to technology is not a good one, but so I think what we need to do is we need to embrace all the good things about flexible work and platform work and everything that the good thing it brings, which is primarily flexibility, easy access to income. And then what we need to do, and that this is the reality, and we need to raise our hand, especially gig economy companies like ourselves, is, but not everything's positive. And let's look at the things that are not so positive. And I think a couple of those are clear. Is, there's much less guarantees for gig economy and platform workers. They don't have necessarily guaranteed income per hour, or don't have a guaranteed number of hours. And unfortunately, well, that's not right, because many of these workers actually depend on this income as their primary source of income, and many of their only source of income. So companies like ourselves and the industry, I think, have a responsibility to make sure that if a worker's been working 30 hours the previous week, has a certain amount of income, that he to a certain extent can have that guarantee, because both himself and his family are probably dependent on that income. And we need to put in the commitment. So what I'm saying with this is, just because it's flexible and autonomous doesn't mean we have to reduce the social rights. And there should be mechanisms. And then I think, the way the EU and Brussels are beginning to look at this, and hopefully they're beginning the phase of regulation, they have a great opportunity to look at this, and I think build groundbreaking regulation that maybe the rest of the world will see. Because one thing in Europe we do value, and I think pretty much every single country, is basic social rights. So we're definitely in favor of raising the bar. In fact, we last year launched the Courier's Pledge. It's called the Courier's Pledge and not the Glovo Pledge, because we are hopeful that other gig economy platforms will join it. It's not inclusive. So it's not exclusive, it's inclusive. And what we've done is we've identified 3, 4, 5 things that we believe are fundamental and guarantees, and what our commitment is before the end of 2023 in every single region, country, every single one of our couriers will be covered by minimum basic social rights. And these include guaranteed earnings per hour. It includes sick pay. It includes holiday pay, parental or leave. So it includes certain basic rights that normally are only associated with a labour contract.
Okay.
But we believe it doesn't need to just be associated with labour contract. I would believe that people who decide to be flexible, maybe have 2 or 3 jobs, maybe only want to work 10 hours a week, maybe want to work 10 hours one week, but actually next week want to work 30 and then work 5, that they should have covered by basic social rights. So this is our push to lead the way on this. We think it'll be standard. We think that however Brussels decides to regulate this, it will be in this direction, because as I said before, there's a lot of advantages of flexible work led by technology or platform work, but there are some things that I think can be done a little bit better, and we believe in that. I know a lot of our peers and other companies, competitors are thinking the same way. So hopefully we can, once we get to that point, then we stop talking about the things that are not so good about platform work, and then we start focusing on the good things.
Yeah, fantastic. It's really great to hear, how pioneering the Glovo is being in these 2 different aspects, with respect to climate change and respect to the future work and how people are working. And
another thing, just to reinforce that this isn't just us saying, hey, we're going to do this and everything. What we've done as well is we want to be audited. So we're doing this in conjunction with the Fair Work Foundation. I think they're probably the leading voice on gig economy work, and I would say critical voice on gig economy work in Europe. And we want them to be the judges of how we're doing, where we need to improve, and where we need to get to. And then we also looking at third parties as well to help us manage what is a fair earnings in each of our countries. So there's organizations out there who we're working in our case with Wage Indicator. I think they're also the voice of what is a correct wage, hourly wage in different countries, and different based on other types of jobs, based on all the demographics, and based also on the cost of living and things like that. So we're working with third parties to make sure this is done in the right way.
Wow, that's amazing. It's really, really great to hear. So going off on that, then what do you see happening for the future of Glovo over the next 5 years?
Well, we've recently come into an agreement with which was our major shareholder to date, which was Delivery Hero. They will be in fact becoming not only our major shareholder, who are minority shareholder, they'll become our majority shareholder. So we'll be working hand in hand with them and continue to growing our business. We share the vision of where we think we want to be. Our intent is to continue growing the next 2 years. We have, in most of our markets, we have a huge opportunity of incredible double, sometimes triple digit growth still ahead. As I mentioned in the beginning, we firmly believe in multi-category. Our fastest growing segments or verticals within our app in the different countries is not necessarily restaurant food. In most cases, it's groceries, where we have that business unit within the company is called Q-commerce, Q for quick. We believe quick commerce will be a huge part of e-commerce, fastest growing. What was maybe okay a few years ago to receive in 48 hours, what was probably okay last year to receive next day. We don't even believe in same day. We believe that many consumers will want everything within an hour, within 30 minutes, immediately. Not everything, but a large percentage of their online acquisitions. If you can receive it straight away now and you want it now, then why wouldn't you receive that? And that goes far beyond restaurant food and goes beyond groceries. We're talking about electronics, we're talking about fashion, and then the great thing about a company like Glovo and our counterparts is if the consumer more and more wants his goods immediately, well, it's very difficult for a large e-commerce to do that, because normally the large e-commerce has the product or the goods you want miles and miles away, sometimes thousands of miles in a different country. Whereas we work with local partners literally in your neighborhood. So we're in a great position and unique position to facilitate those partners can deliver in a much quicker time than a traditional and large e-commerce company. So actually, they're giving a better user experience, and probably the only ones who can do that today. I'm a firm believer that retailers, our high street retailers, both small, the small mom and pop stores as well as the large chains, are in a unique position to take advantage of that, because this window of opportunity of being the only ones who can literally get you something in 30 minutes is today. The large e-commerces, as we can read every day, are moving closer and closer to the consumer.
Sure.
They're even acquiring retail chains. So I think, we all need to move very quickly, and we're a facilitator in that. We're somebody who helps them actually do that and get the goods to the consumer in 20 minutes and 15 minutes when at 30 minutes, or even allows the consumer to pick it up in the store if he wants. You can order through our app and pick it up in the store. So I think we need to move very quickly together, and I think the retail industry as a whole should seize on this opportunity.
Absolutely. Great. Well, it's been so inspiring and insightful to talk with you today. As a final question, what advice would you give to yourself when you were 20?
Well, certainly not listen to an old fogey like me. That's the first thing I would say. Seriously, I mean, I'd probably say, follow your passion. Don't think about, the money or the success. We generally live in a society which success is measured by capital. How big your company is, how big you grew it, what's its valuation. Follow your passion. If you follow things you really enjoy, and that applies to everything, you're going to do it much, much better. You're going to enjoy it more, and your job doesn't become a job, it becomes a passion. So you wake up every morning and you're not going to work, you're going to do things you enjoy, and you can do that in a work environment. And I've been lucky to be able to do that. There's obviously a lot of luck around everything we do and in the right time at the right place, but I've managed to pretty much my whole career, even from when I was 16, when I started being a jockey, to now something totally different. I really enjoy what I do, and I think, follow your passion. Don't think about the economics.
Wonderful.
The second comes after the first.
I love it. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Sacha. It's been really, really great to have you today and to hear all this story. It's been fascinating. So thank you.
No, thank you. I'm delighted to be part of this podcast.